The day the Vorkai Empire arrived above Earth, every government on the planet went into emergency lockdown. Sirens wailed across major cities. Presidents and prime ministers rushed into underground bunkers. Military generals bent over radar screens, watching 17 massive warships descend through the atmosphere like slow, terrible moons. The ships were black as charcoal and easily 5 kilometers long each, shaped like iron fists clenched and pointed at the surface of the world below. The Vorkai had conquered 43 civilizations across the galaxy. They had a method, a precise, well-practiced routine. First, they would hover in silence for 6 hours, letting terror do its finest work. Then their supreme commander would broadcast a message of absolute dominance. Civilizations would crumble. Leaders would beg. Surrender would be immediate. It had never failed. Not once in 800 years of conquest. Commander Zethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, arms folded behind his back, watching the small blue-green planet beneath him. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Prahl, stood beside him wearing the traditional expression of smug superiority that all Vorkai officers practiced in the mirror each morning. "How long until the humans begin mass panic?" Prahl asked. Zethvar checked the psychological warfare calculation panel. Estimated 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Their news channels will be broadcasting our arrival already. Within the hour, their social structures will collapse under the weight of collective dread. Prahl smiled. "And then we collect the planet." They waited. And waited. After 6 hours of hovering in ominous silence, Zethvar activated the communication array. His image, towering, 8 feet tall, dark gray skin, 4 arms, eyes like burning amber coals, projected onto every screen on Earth simultaneously. His translator device converted his words into every human language in real time. "People of Earth," his voice boomed like thunder rolling across a mountain range. "The Vorkai Empire has arrived. Your resistance is futile. Your weapons are primitive. Your civilization is forfeit. You have 1 hour to surrender, or face absolute." He stopped. Something was wrong. Across the planet, the humans were not weeping. They were not fleeing. They were not falling to their knees in trembling submission. They were laughing. Zethvar watched the monitoring screens in stunned silence. Social media platforms, which his analysts had been tracking, were exploding, not with panic, with jokes. A human had taken a screenshot of his broadcast and drawn little cat ears on his head. It had been shared 11 million times in 40 seconds. Someone had posted, "Bro showed up to conquer us, wearing a bathrobe and some Halloween contacts." Shh. Another wrote, "The galaxy's biggest baddies, and they spent 6 hours just hovering. My ex took longer to reply to texts, and I didn't surrender to him either." A popular human account had already created a song, upbeat, cheerful, completely absurd, titled, "We Ain't Scared, the Vorkai Bop," and it was trending in 47 countries. Lieutenant Prahl leaned over the commander's shoulder, squinting at the screens. "Commander, they're making memes of you." "I see that, Prahl. That one has given you a tiny hat." "I see that too, Prahl. And that one has put your face on I don't know what that is, a dancing feline creature." Prahl. Silence. Zethvar cleared his throat and tried again. He deepened his voice to its most terrifying register. "Humans. This is not a matter for humor. We have destroyed entire star systems. We leveled the civilization of..." "Okay, but have you tried being funny about it first?" Someone had already typed, and the comment had 40,000 likes before he finished his sentence. A group of university students in Lagos had formed a marching band and were playing a slightly off-key rendition of "We Will Rock You," directly toward the nearest hovering warship. They had a sign that read, "Welcome aliens, please don't sit on our buildings." In Tokyo, a street artist had already completed a massive mural of Zethvar wearing a chef's hat and apron, holding a spatula, with the caption, "Earth's new head chef." In New York, a man had set up a folding table beneath one of the warships and was selling merchandise, t-shirts, mugs, caps. One shirt read, "I survived the Vorkai invasion, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt." He had a queue of 40 people already. Zethvar turned slowly to his psychological warfare officer, a thin Vorkai named Seath who had 3 PhDs in interspecies terror methodology. "Seath," the commander said quietly, "explain this." Seath looked genuinely distressed. He was scrolling rapidly through the intelligence feeds, his amber eyes flickering. "Commander, I don't understand it. According to every known model of civilizational psychology, a species at this technological level, facing a superior military force, should exhibit fear." "Yes, fear, submission, existential dread, possible ritual begging," Seath shook his head slowly. Instead, they're tagging each other in the posts. They're saying things like, "This is literally the plot of a movie I watched last week." One human asked if you're the main character or just a mini-boss. What is a mini-boss? Seath looked pained. I believe it refers to a minor obstacle in one of their game simulations, not the final challenge. A warm-up. The silence on the bridge was absolute. Zethvar walked to the great observation window and looked down at the planet. Somewhere down there, billions of humans were collectively deciding that the most reasonable response to a galactic empire parking warships over their cities was to make jokes about it. They had created hashtags. They had remixed his broadcast into a music video. A child, had sent a drawing to the Eternal Dominion's communication channel. It showed Zethvar and a small human shaking hands, with the words, "You can be my friend if you want. We have pizza." He didn't know what pizza was. He almost asked. "Commander," said Prahl carefully, "perhaps we should attempt a more direct approach? A small demonstration of our weapons, perhaps? Level a minor uninhabited landmass." "We tried that with the Quillari of System 9, muttered Seath darkly. "They wept and surrendered immediately." "These humans," Zethvar said slowly, "are not the Quillari of System 9. He had conquered species that fought back. He had conquered species that surrendered. He had conquered species that tried to negotiate, beg, threaten, or flee. In 800 years, he had never once conquered a species that responded to imminent apocalypse by collectively deciding it was the funniest thing to happen all year. He needed to think. He retreated to his private chambers and sat for a very long time staring at a wall. At some point, his communications officer knocked and entered, looking deeply uncomfortable. "Commander, the humans have sent an official response to our declaration of conquest." "Yes, sir." The officer held out a datapad. "It's from something called the United Nations. They've attached a formal letter." Zethvar read it. The letter acknowledged the Vorkai Empire's arrival. It expressed that humanity was flattered by the attention. It politely noted that Earth was not currently accepting applications for conquest, but we appreciate your interest. It invited Commander Zethvar to attend something called a diplomatic summit, where, it promised, there would be refreshments and the opportunity to discuss mutual interests in a relaxed environment. At the bottom, someone had added a handwritten postscript. "P.S. You went viral. Congrats." Zethvar set the datapad down. He thought about the 43 civilizations he had conquered. He thought about the centuries of careful, methodical psychological warfare. He thought about the weight of the Vorkai Empire's reputation across 100 star systems. Then he thought about the child's drawing sitting in his communications inbox, the one offering pizza and friendship. He picked up his communicator. "Prahl." "Yes, Commander?" "Tell the fleet to hold position. I'm going to attend a summit." There was a very long pause. "Sir?" "And find out what pizza is." The history books would later record that the Vorkai Empire's attempted conquest of Earth lasted exactly 11 hours, 42 minutes, and ended not with battle, not with surrender, but with a diplomatic dinner, at which Commander Zethvar tried his first slice of margarita pizza, declared it unexpectedly extraordinary, and signed a cultural exchange agreement instead of an Articles of Conquest. The humans, for their part, gave him a tiny hat as a parting gift. He wore it all the way home. The end.